Hey guys, welcome back to Missing Out Mondays, where we tell you what we're in to start your week off right. I'm Tauri Jay.
I'm Lex Michael.
Happy Memorial Day, guys.
Oh, that's today.
Yeah, that's today. Everyone's probably getting ready for their yummy barbecues, or you're listening to this the next day because you're going on your commute and you're like, oh boy, what are these guys into?
But we hope you enjoyed your barbecue.
We hope so. Either the barbecue you're about to enjoy or the barbecue you did enjoy.
Barbecue exists in its own pocket of space-time.
It's true.
Yeah, it doesn't obey the linear rules that our time normally does.
Hell yeah. So this week we're doing something a little different. If you might remember, last week was the series finale of this small HBO show called Game of Thrones. You may not have heard of it.
It's tiny, low-budget drama.
Yeah. So it concluded, and so we're gonna give it a little bit of time, talk about our overall thoughts, and then we're gonna talk about our own stuff that we're into for the week. So if you don't care about the end of Game of Thrones, you can skip to whatever. And then just keep hitting the 15 seconds until you hear us talking about something else. But yeah, so Lex, did you have thoughts about the end of Game of Thrones?
I mean, not as aggressively as some folks, I guess.
Did you not sign the petition?
I don't even want to talk about this. So silly. It's that, I guess, total sidebar. The petition thing, like, I get not liking the way the series ended.
Yeah.
Fine, that's subjective, whether you liked it or not. But the idea that would accomplish anything is a little bit nonsensical. There's almost, because of the way these things are made and how far in advance they're made and how expensive it is and how many people you need involved, there's no way for a petition like that to actually impact anything. It's not possible.
Right.
Anyway. More power to you if you did sign it. I'm just letting you know that there's a 0% chance that will affect anything at all.
I mean, maybe it's not zero though, because you saw what happened with Sonic, where fans were like, "The design is bad," bleh. And so now it's been pushed back to 2020.
I know.
So fan outrage works, Lex Michael. You just got to get mad about something.
Say what you will about the Sonic design, man. I don't think it's a slippery slope. But like, it is, you know. Like, I mean, yes. I don't necessarily, even if I don't like something, or I'm assuming I won't like something in a piece of media that's coming out or has come out already, I don't necessarily want creators to have to alter things because people complain.
That's true. I mean, I guess I'd rather they just get it right the first time.
Well, it's not like a restaurant, right? Like, that's not how it works, right? If you don't get to send it back just because you don't like it. That's just full stop, not how art or media works.
Right.
Yes. Or it wasn't, and it shouldn't be. So that's what concerns me about the Sonic thing, is that, you know, obviously that's a smaller thing to tackle than what the signers of this recent petition want, which is to remake the entire 8th season of this show.
Right.
But slippery slope. I don't think it's a good thing.
No, Lex, we live in a new age where you can change whatever you want to. I mean, as long as it's media related. I mean, I'm sure that everyone who signed this petition could have put their energy towards something that mattered, like, you know, all the legislation that's going through regarding people's bodies or rights and stuff like that.
No, but nothing is more important than a season of television that wasn't maybe my favorite season of television of all time.
Yeah.
Because I'm owed things by creators.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of gets into where you and I have talked about the ending of Game of Thrones, and
right, which we should actually talk about now, I suppose.
Right.
Because my thoughts are I can sum them up pretty succinctly.
Yeah.
Which is, so as we know, the creators, Benioff and Weiss, were apparently offered as much time and money as they felt they needed to conclude the series. And they said, nah, 2 shortened seasons, and the last season's only going to be 6 episodes. We got this. The result of which is we got to speed through a lot of stuff. A lot of people took issue with certain character turns, obviously biggest example being Daenerys' turn towards the end where she burns the entire, spoilers, she burns all of King's Landing. A lot of people argued that felt completely out of character, felt out of nowhere, felt completely arbitrary, and I disagree, and that's one example. I think all of the whats in the final season were correct. They all made perfect sense to me as resolutions to the arcs that we've been building for these characters since the beginning of the show. Having said that, we have to get from point to point to point so quickly that we aren't able to dramatize these big steps very much, if at all. So in the moment, certain things feel arbitrary, which is absolutely not, let's say, not really what you want.
Yeah.
But I think the whats all track for me. The whats are satisfying. The hows, less so. And then, of course, your mileage may vary. Some people are very grumpy about the whats.
Okay.
The whats work for me. The how, I wish we had an entire other season to dramatize every big leap more effectively. If we'd had that, I think a lot of people would be a lot more satisfied. So for me, it's the how more than the what that I bumped up against a little bit.
I think that like the how or the what's and the hows are interconnected. So for me, I think I was unsatisfied because the way that story structure works is like set up payoff,
right?
In some way, shape, or form. Like you may not get the payoff that you are expecting, but like,
or the payoff you want,
right? But I feel like there has to be something that is relatively cause and effect oriented, and so them trying to speed through these points, they are essentially just shoving these characters on a paper boat and sending them down a river to their ultimate destination,
right?
And I think that the way that they did it could have been like small changes would have resulted in a better payoff than the ones that were given. Like because I think the whats were not earned, and so I'm not okay with the whats in addition to the hows. Because I think that like solid storytelling will, like, even if you have 6 episodes to get, let's say, for example, Dany to be the quote-unquote evil queen, like, maybe we were heading that way.
I think we were very much heading that way from the beginning of the show, if not season 2, because if you go back and watch the entire show again, which I watched the entire show leading up to the 8th season, if that's not where we were going, Daenerys had absolutely no character arc at all after the first season. Like,
right.
Her story was done if that's not where we were taking it. And it seems very much like that's where we've been taking it. It's just that we spent, what, 2 to 3 seasons largely wheel spinning with her character.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden at the very end, it's like, boom, 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 we're getting there really, really quickly.
Yeah.
So for me, it really does feel like we were always heading here, but man, we could have managed some of that time a little more efficiently.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, like, though I feel like the way that the story had progressed, I feel like it could have gone either way, because her arc is about learning to be better than she was, or better than her ancestors. And so I think it would have taken more provocation for that turn to happen. So with the story that we got, what?
Well, I didn't read her arc that way. Like, she wanted to be a better queen than her ancestors were. But for me, her entire her goal was the throne. Her goal was ultimately power.
Right.
You know, more so than being a better queen. Like, she wants to rule over everybody, yeah, but it's not. Yes, she says she wants to rule over everybody to break the wheel and make a better world, but it's all predicated on her desire, her need to rule over everybody. So for me, it was always a story about somebody who's seeking power because they feel entitled to that power. I talked to a former guest, Brian Andrews, and I were talking about the finale, and he was saying how he refers to the dragons as a trust fund.
Okay.
Because a lot of it is about entitlement. It's about her feeling of entitlement to that power. And granted, until we find out that Jon Snow is a Targaryen himself, Daenerys really does arguably have a strong claim. Like, yes, Robert Baratheon's heir, like, you could argue maybe if Gendry wasn't a bastard, like, he'd have a claim to the throne, but as far as Daenerys is concerned, Robert was a usurper, so his claim was false to begin with. So she does have a legitimate claim, but with that comes this sense of entitlement. And I think, to me, that's what the arc was essentially. Yes, she wants to, if she can, be the best queen possible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but it's all predicated on this desire for power she feels that she's owed.
Right, but it's also the, like, keeping with the trust fund analogy, it's like, as she was going, she was taking on advisors that were like basically people who were woke enough to be like, yo, you got privilege. And she's like, what am I not using my privilege right? And they're like, nah, you're fucking it up. Like, you're using your privilege in all the wrong ways. And so at a certain point, she essentially started waking up and then shut her eyes and was like, I'm just going to use my privilege, which is these dragons, to lash out at everyone indiscriminately, whereas, like, I was using my privilege only against the wealthy.
Right. But also, too, like, we establish, and again, the big issue for me, and I think really the crux of the issue that you're having, if I'm understanding correctly, it's just that we speed to that finish so quickly. And we really needed, I think, another full season of laying additional groundwork, because you can connect the dots, right? You can connect. I mean, we established earlier in the show, that I forget which season it is, she conquers a kingdom, and she expects that everybody is going to receive her warmly and with love. And when they don't, she just can't process it.
Yeah.
You know? And so a version of that is what happens in the penultimate episode, when she arrives and she expects to be greeted with love and warmth and acceptance, and she's not. And I think that's the last straw for her. But we're speeding through everything so quickly, we don't actually get that moment dramatized.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like a couple of shots of them reacting in terror or not reacting the way that she wants them to would have made all the difference, I think, and we don't get that shot. So all of those dots are there. It's just we're leaping from dot to dot instead of connecting the two with a straight line.
I mean, yeah, I think for me personally, my overall issue with this last season is that they, from a storytelling standpoint, they basically took what should have been the finale and kind of killed it halfway, which was like the White Walker saga, we'll call it, or the White Walker storyline. And I think because there was a feeling that people love political intrigue, they were just going to spend the last few episodes doing that yummy political intrigue,
which is what got me into the show in the first place.
Right.
Like, I can honestly take or leave most of the fantasy stuff. That's what did it for me initially.
Right. But if you're going to lean into the political intrigue, then do the work of that piece.
Right.
So either lean into the fantasy and let that guide your finale or your like final season, or lean into the political intrigue and let that also guide it, and just do the groundwork to get the people where they need to go.
Right.
Instead, the feeling of the season was that the focus was on spectacle. Like they had a big dartboard and were like, here are cool shots that I think should be included in the season. How do we get those shots?
Right. They went full summer blockbuster with it. And to be fair, to their credit, I think a lot of the visual storytelling is pretty great. Like, it's a very well shot, well executed. From a technical level, I think it's fantastically executed.
Yes.
But yes, it is sort of the big, goofy summer blockbuster version of the thing. But there are shots that I think are really great. Like, there's that shot in the finale, and of course it's the most on the nose bit of imagery you could think of, where Daenerys is approaching. She walks into the shot and her dragon is behind her, and the wings look as if they're spreading outwards from her.
Right.
Very, very, very on the nose in terms of symbolism, but I thought it was a really excellent image.
Right. Yes. And that's the thing, is everyone who's working on this show did everything like they did everything to the top of their ability,
except for the people who were supposed to clear the water bottles from the set.
Whatever.
I mean, I'm not really worried about it, but it is interesting to me that yeah, in the final season, twice in the season, there was erroneous beverage containers in the shot.
Yeah, which is funny because most of them could have either you take a different angle or you just cut it off, but no one was like paying any attention, which is ultimately the big issue. Like it's representative of the bigger issue in that like the finer details don't matter. And so
that's a good way to put it.
Right. And so I think that's why everyone took an issue with it. Like in a vacuum, each of those episodes was a masterclass in how to create compelling imagery and how to do a large scale, high budget content. We'll say movie, TV show, whatever.
Yeah.
Just high quality content.
Looks expensive.
Yes. In a vacuum. But like in the greater context of the show itself, I think it did a disservice to what everyone had been building towards. So that's my main gripe. And I think that like other people have their own things. People are like, what did Jon Snow Targaryen things? And like I get those as well.
Yep, I've seen those exact tweets.
Yep.
Targaryen things.
But it just boils down to there was no payoff for a lot of the setup. Or the payoff for the setups wasn't necessarily what people wanted.
Right. And for me, I feel like the payoffs were all there. It's just the way we got to those payoffs was very rushed and messy.
Yeah.
And so they end up feeling less satisfying because you have to then, if you're not going to take the time to dramatize all of those steps, you end up in a situation where, like with Daenerys, it feels like a massive pivot. It very much didn't come out of nowhere, but in the moment, I could absolutely see audience members being like, wait, what? Why is this happening?
Yeah.
So I get it. For me, though, it's, like I said, it's the how and not the what, but the how undercuts the what a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I feel like those are all my thoughts on Game of Thrones. Do you have anything else you're into this week?
You know what? Yeah. I went last night and I checked out Aladdin.
Oh, okay.
Which I wasn't sure if I was going to check out in a theater. I went and honestly, I'm glad I did. I dug it a lot more than I was expecting to.
Okay.
It was fun. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say like best picture of the year, and I'd really have to think back on the Disney live action adaptations that I've seen if I was going to try and rank it or place it in a hierarchy.
Yeah.
But I know I had more fun watching this one, I think, than I have any of the others. Going into it, of course, the big thing that everybody was talking about more than any other factor was Will Smith as the genie.
Right.
Of course, the original animated Aladdin was, at the time, the rare animated star vehicle. And, of course, Robin Williams very famously created that character. It's very much him.
Yeah.
Very much his humor that nobody else could begin to replicate. You can't do what Robin Williams did. And so much of what that original animated film was crafted around Robin Williams' take on that character.
Yeah.
So going in, it's like, okay, well, how is this not going to feel clunky, weird, incongruous? How is this going to work? Is this going to be almost uncomfortable to watch for 2 hours? I think the way they reorganized certain elements, the way they rebuilt the character, much in the way that the character originally was a byproduct of all of Robin Williams' specific strengths.
Yeah.
I feel like they were able to tailor it for Will Smith.
Okay.
I haven't had this much fun watching Will Smith since the 90s. This feels like he's going full 90s Will Smith, and I genuinely liked his genie. Which is good because the genie was always kind of the heart of this story.
Yeah.
There are elements of it. Guy Ritchie, I thought, was a bit of an odd choice for this movie.
Who is Guy Ritchie?
Guy Ritchie, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
No. Who is he in this movie?
Guy Ritchie is the director.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. So Lock, Stock, Snatch, a couple of Sherlock Holmes movies. King Arthur, Rock and Rolla. So I thought he was an odd choice. And the way he shoots some of the musical numbers, I think might be a byproduct of him being an odd choice to shoot, a dynamic musical sequence. But the result of it, which I think is probably an inadvertent result, is that a lot of the musical numbers, especially Will Smith's musical numbers, end up feeling at times like 90s hip-hop videos, which I dug a bunch. And I also like that they hip-hopped up a lot of the songs, but only slightly.
Okay.
But then, of course, Will Smith is the genie. They go full 90s. Like, the memes of shit like getting genie with it. That's exactly correct. That is exactly what it is. That is exactly the energy that he brings to it. And when he first enters the movie, I'm going like, okay, he seems to be having a really good time. And then his version of Friend Like Me kicks in. Dude, like, I had a great time watching the way they pulled that together and, again, tailored it specifically for Will Smith.
Yeah.
And by the time it comes in, right, like, Will Smith as the genie is the big thing that everybody's talking about. So you've been spending time with Aladdin, a little bit of time with Jasmine and Abu, of course. Jafar, who I think they gave Jafar a bit of an interesting motivation in this one, insofar as he's power hungry as he was in the original animated movie.
Yeah.
But it's about his need to be the most powerful person in the room, because if you're not the most powerful person in the room, you're nothing. And so it's this weird, almost petty drive for power for its own sake, but so as not to be worthless, which I thought was an interesting twist.
Yeah.
So you're spending time with everybody, but of course everybody's waiting for Genie. And when that number kicks in, it's all of a sudden the energy of the movie just goes way, 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 way up. And I think the Genie Aladdin chemistry in this movie is great. I think Jasmine, who's played by Naomi Scott, she's phenomenal. She should now be way more famous than she is. They created a new song for Jasmine for this movie called Speechless. And her performance, it's as you're going into the kind of like home stretch of the movie, holy crap, she kills it.
Yeah.
There's a new handmaiden character that they create, and she's hilarious, right? Like every alteration they make, it feels like they were able to modernize certain things without making it feel too hacky.
Yeah.
So there are elements of the movie that feel, yes, a little bit clunky. A lot of it feels very, very stagey, but a lot of it is really fun. And I would recommend, if you're going to go see it, go check it out in IMAX. That's how I watched it. It's a really, really fun. It's a fun watch. It's
okay.
not, I'm not going to sit here and say like it's an amazing movie and you're going to think it's fantastic on a filmic level. There are certain issues in terms of storytelling where it definitely feels like we know Aladdin.
Yeah.
So sometimes it feels like we're going beat to beat to beat.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of stuff happening without necessarily connecting the beats.
Yeah.
But it's fine because they're right. We all know Aladdin. It has those certain issues, but ultimately I had so much more fun with it than I was expecting to, and a lot of that is it's credited to Will Smith, and it really does feel like the same way, like I was saying, the same way they built out the movie from Robin Williams initially. It feels like they tweaked the movie around Will Smith this time, and I think it was a good choice, and I feel like he killed it, and they made it feel very much like it's his character, you know what I mean? Like nobody's trying to emulate Robin Williams.
Right.
Because you can't, it's not possible, and that would have felt a little bit tasteless. I like what they did a bunch, and I feel like they sidestepped any criticism in that direction, right? Like I don't think you could point to that and say they're just trying and failing to replicate what Williams brought to it originally.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun. Maybe not the best movie you're going to see this year, but I think it's a really good time. And of course, who doesn't like Aladdin,
Yeah.
So it's fun, and see it in IMAX because everything is real big and real loud and real colorful.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of rambling, but you get it.
No, yeah, I got you. I'm into, I just watched the second season of Barry over this weekend.
I am hearing amazing things about that show.
It's a great show. Have you watched any of it?
I have not yet.
Okay. It's really fun. It's has a lot of colorful characters. It's very like navel gazy in terms of like LA actor stuff.
Sure.
Which can I don't know. As I live in LA, I don't know what it's like to experience that from the outside. So I'm sure your mileage will vary. Your mileage will vary. Am I right, guys?
No.
But no, I think that like it is very well acted. It's very like thoughtfully written, and I feel like the way that we get from episode to episode is really, since it's so character driven, it's both very clever and also sometimes super dark, which I really like, which I guess you'd expect from a show about an assassin who is trying to become an actor.
Right.
But tomorrow we're going to talk about Fringe, which one of the main characters struggles with trying to be a good person even though he's done bad things, and you get kind of the same struggle with Barry as well. And I really like watching after the credits, like HBO always does this with its tentpole shows, where they do a little interview with the creators of the show.
Right.
And it's really interesting to see how they construct the season and like the way that the writer's room thinks about the characters. So I definitely recommend it. I definitely recommend watching it. Everyone's acting to the best of their abilities. You get to hang out with Bill Hader and Stephen Root and the Fonz, also known as Henry Winkler. And also there's a character named NoHo Hank, who is probably one of my favorite characters on TV right now.
I have heard of NoHo Hank, but I know nothing about this character.
Well, watch the show, and you'll be like, NoHo Hank's the best. Aww. NoHo Hank, he's so cool.
I definitely plan on getting on the show soon. A bunch of people have been recommending it to me.
Yeah. And for those who watched Gotham, NoHo Hank is played by the same dude who played Zazzle in that show. He's the dude with alopecia, so he's like bald, has no eyebrows and stuff. Zazzle, yeah.
Zaz? Victor Zaz?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is. I didn't watch Gotham.
It's fine. But he's great. There's a moment, like he's a very whimsical character, and there's a moment in the first season, or first episode of season 2, where like you see him do a quick character shift, and you're like, oh damn, he's so menacing. I've never seen, like, you wouldn't think that this character has that much menace in him. And it's so believable. This character, it's also, the show is a really fun chance to see really good actors doing bad acting, which I think is really fun, because he's in this acting class, and so you get to see people like Darcy Carden, who's amazing, and you've seen her in The Good Place. Have you seen The Good Place? Doing such great work on that, being an aspiring actor who cannot act. So it's fantastic. So highly recommended. But let us know what you're into, everyone.
Oh, one last thing that I forgot to mention about Aladdin. This is actually the thing that got me into the theater in the first place more than any other factor.
Okay.
I learned, and it proved correct to my great joy, Will Smith, going full 90s Will Smith, does a rap for the end credits.
Yeah.
That's it. It's great.
Oh, okay.
It's great.
Nice.
I missed 90s Will.
Well, you got him back. And now you can also see him in the movie Gemini.
Oh, yeah,
featuring
Gemini,
a young Will Smith.
Featuring 90s Will Smith.
Yeah. Which is just CGI.
Well, he was CG in the 90s.
That's true. Yeah. I've watched Independence Day. But yeah, guys, what are you into? Let us know on Twitter at Missing Outcast, MISSINGOUTCAST. Or you can hit us up on our personal Twitters. Lex, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at the Lex Michael.
You can find me at Tauri Jay, TAURIJAY, also on Instagram and Twitter, though I never post on Instagram because I'm a bad grammar. Just ask my posts, just ask my English teachers, my grammar's bad. All right, that's how I'm going to end this show. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about the J.J. Abrams, Kurtzman and Orsi Fox show Fringe that came out in 2008. I am introducing Lex to the pilot, and it's going to be as spoiler-free as possible because I want him to experience every aspect of it fresh and good. So, if you have a chance to check out tomorrow's episode, please do. It's going to be so fun. We're going to talk about Fringe and Fringe science. But also, make sure that you have a wonderful or had a wonderful Memorial Day.
With your tasty time-displaced barbecue.
Hell yeah. All right, see you tomorrow. Bye.